speech title is Purpose-Centered Evaluation. The project objective is to show you that there's a better way to approach evaluations to help speakers achieve their purpose. It's a 15-minute speech, so I think we'll go 13, 14, 15 minutes for the timer. The introduction is Pat Caslin is a speaker that is particularly interested in elevating the quality of evaluation skills of Toastmasters in a way that benefits both the evaluator and the speaker. He's done that with our club, and it's my pleasure to introduce Distinguished Toastmaster Pat Caslin.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. Today, I want to talk to you about a better way of evaluating speeches, to take the best of what Toastmasters already says to us and to add something to it, a subtle change that will benefit speakers very significantly and that will benefit evaluators as well. So I've been working on this for some time. We started a project in Masters Evaluation about 4 years ago, and I didn't get to complete it. And that was an embarrassment. I was VPE. But since then, I've been looking at what is a speech about. So when Viv stood up, he stood up to make a point. His speech had a purpose. And in Toastmasters, if you look at the best evaluation guidelines, it says at the beginning of them that there are two things that you should discuss with your speaker before you agree to evaluate. And the first is, what are the competencies you're looking to demonstrate? And the second one is, what's the purpose of the speech that they're making? But when we come to evaluate, we evaluate the competencies. And it's rare that I hear somebody evaluate the achievement of the purpose. So we evaluate the vocal variety, we evaluate the gestures, we evaluate the expression, we evaluate all of the things that are done that we think are really good, and then we make a suggestion of something that the speaker could do that will improve what they are doing. We rarely comment, though, on has that speaker achieved their purpose? And John mentioned the things that we should look at. So we comment on the stories, we comment on the humor, the vocal variety, we comment on structure, we comment on gesture. We comment on all of those things, but we don't say what impact they had on the audience. So we talk about what is being called sometimes the producer values, the things the speaker does, rather than the audience or the consumer values, the things that we feel or know or do after the speech has been completed. And at the end of the day, even for the novice speaker, they're standing up or sitting up to say, I'm doing this for a reason. There is a reason behind every speech. I want to tell you a story. I want to inspire you. I want to inform you. I want you to understand something. There is a reason. Everybody has a reason for speaking. It's rare that you hear a speaker that isn't doing their speech for some reason or something that they want to know. An icebreaker is to let you know about themselves. That's the purpose. An informative speech is to tell you something. An inspirational speech is to get you motivated to think differently. These are all purposes. But in all of those speeches, we evaluate the things that we see in front of us, what the speaker does. So I want to change your perception of what an evaluation should be. And in my view, the aim of a speech evaluation is to help the speaker to better achieve their purpose the next time they speak. It's not to tell them just the nice things that they did. It's to help them, how do I help this speaker achieve that purpose? And that fundamentally changes the way we think about the things that we see the speaker doing. Because now we're looking to see, did those things they did create impact that advanced the purpose, or did it have impacts that detracted from the purpose? Now, the things the speaker does get context that enhance or detract from his purpose. So the questions that you want to ask yourself was, when I look at what this speaker did, could I relate to it? Because if the speaker isn't relatable to you, it's really difficult to hear their message. So could I relate to it? Did they tell, are there things that they did that I felt, yes, I was part of that. I understand that. I can see that in myself. Did they do things that we can relate to? Not just as Toastmasters, but as speakers, as human beings, as people who interact with other people. The second question, did I care? Okay, it might be relatable, but is this something that's relevant to me that I could be bothered about? And in caring, how did they make me care? What humor and emotion did they elicit in me in the stories that they told and how they told it, or in the things that, from my experience, that related to me or that I could see that helped me to understand the point of view? What emotion did they create in me to make this, to make me care about it? And the third thing we need to ask is, did I understand the purpose? So this is then the logic of the speech. So if I can relate and they elicited certain emotions in me, whether that is, cynicism, pathos, it's humor, whatever those emotions are, that made me feel something. And then when I know I like this speaker, I've felt some emotion. Now his logic or their logic becomes much, much easier to follow. It becomes much more persuasive. So if we then look at those three questions and then say, how are all of the tools that the speaker used, how do they impact on those purposes? We then get a much, much richer evaluation for that speaker, because we're able to say to them, if you do this, the way you did this helped you. I was convinced, if so, instead of saying, great use of tricolon, saying the way you repeated that really helped me to understand your message because it reinforced it in a different way. So let's not comment on the things the speaker does. Let's comment on the impact of those things that they do in helping us to relate to them, to care about what they're saying, and to understand the point that they make. Now that becomes a really powerful speech evaluation. So I want you to think, not in terms the next time you look at a speaker or when you evaluate this or you send me back notes. I don't want to talk about the things I did. I want you to think about, how do the things I did help you to be convinced or not be convinced that the point I'm making has value for you, is easier to remember, and will give the speaker that you're evaluating much better insight in how they can give their message or get their message across and be more persuasive the next time they speak. Now, one other thing, and this is just as important. I need to get value from your evaluations for it to be valuable. So we should ask speakers, and we've begun to do that in this club, to ask the speakers, what value did you get from that evaluation? So I can tell you what value I took out of what you said. Otherwise, you go away and you say, I think I did quite well there. And the speaker's thinking, what was all that about? So you need to hear as an evaluator what the speaker took from your evaluation, as well as you giving the speaker what you felt about how they spoke. And that completes a really valuable piece of feedback for both the speaker and the evaluator. So I think we need to think differently about how we evaluate, significantly differently. And it's not to deny the the core of the evaluation philosophies in Toastmasters, but it's very much to change subtly and upgrade the second point that is made at the beginning of every Toastmasters evaluation guidance. Look at both the competencies that the speaker displays and the purpose of their speech and evaluate those. And evaluate them from the point of view of the things they do, not just for themselves, but the things they do and how they contribute impact to the point they want to make, or how do they detract from impact on the points they want to make. And then ask the speaker, what value did you get from what I said to you? If we do that, we become better speakers because the next time we speak, we have clear about the purpose that we're speaking to, and we're clear about what we need to do to elevate that purpose. Now, in giving an evaluation, then, I would suggest to you that very often we go into evaluate and we say, okay, what am I going to say here? Well, they kind of did that well, and I like that. And, his gestures were good and, maybe a little overplayed, but they were good. But, so what do I say? But so concentrate on one or two things that impact and elevate purpose, and one or two things, maybe even one, that detract from purpose. And say to the speaker that you might consider doing more of this or doing this differently so that you elevate your ability to persuade or to achieve your purpose. So I could do something that is very good and it looks really well, but if it doesn't advance my purpose, it has no place in my speech. I'm not there to perform, or sometimes I am there to perform and to entertain, and that's fine. But if you're there to make a point or persuade something, do things that are congruent, do things that add to the point that you want to make, and don't do things that, or in a way that detract from that. So, for example, I've seen speakers, and particularly you see this in contests, and I know why it happens because the thinking is I'm looking at all of the things the speaker does. But I saw a speaker saying he came around to see me and the arm went around. Well, we all know what around is. You don't have to do that. That's gesture for the sake of gesture. It doesn't add anything to the congruence. So do things that add to congruence. So I'm going to give you 6 things that, and I'll put up a slide in just a second, um, to consider how your evaluations are done better. And they are purpose. What was the speaker trying to achieve? Impact. Could I relate? Did I care? Did I understand? Amplifiers. What did the speaker do that amplifies that purpose? And then audience outcome. How did this affect the audience? What did I know, think, feel, or do differently after the speaker had spoken? And then what's the next thing the speaker should do? What's the development step to do better the next time? And then what value did the evaluator give to the speaker? So please take a couple of minutes. Please give me some feedback on whether you think this will be a helpful approach to upgrading your evaluations. I think it will if you think along those lines. Purpose, impact, amplifiers, audience outcome, speaker development, and value. Mr. Toastmaster. And I have a paper on this that I will put in the chat afterwards.
Great. Thank you very much. I'm understanding since it's a saucy meeting, we're not going to do, we want 2 minutes, Pat, for feedback as people
Yeah,
go
yeah,
through
yeah.
these
Yeah,
six things.
Yeah, I'd really like just people just to take a couple of minutes and, send me back their thoughts on this. Yeah, thank you.
Today's meeting, the first evaluator for Pat, let's welcome Rosie to the floor.
I don't see Pat, but I'm going to start. So Pat, the speech was clear, insightful, and very educational. I noticed that you got straight to the point and demonstrated strong knowledge of the topic. Your voice was clear and you used pause very effectively. You also maintained good eye contact with the audience. The speech was well organized and include many helpful tips for evaluators. So one thing I know is that you did provide some examples during the speech, but I would love to hear more examples during the speech because our audience, not all people, we we have some guests today, so it could be helpful for our guests to listen to more specific examples to understand and follow your speech better and easier. And I would challenge yourself to include a little bit more expression through the speech that would help you connect with the audience on a deeper value and make the message more touching and memorable. But nice speech, Pat. Back to you, general evaluator.
Thank you, Rosie. And no, he's not here yet. So, okay, let's welcome our third evaluator, Michael, to evaluate Pat.
Boy, Mr. Caslin, did you pick the right evaluator today? And with today's theme, sort of permission, I'm going to let you know that I am very spicy all the time. I buy hot sauce by the half gallon. So let me tell you that I was being very sneaky because I am deeply immersed in the idea of evaluation. I joined this club for the title of the club, the name of the club. And in my original home club in New York, I developed an evaluation sheet that we all used for every different speech with a partner. And then from that, it merged into a book that was from the speaker's perspective about those things that come up in speeches that need work, including purpose, and eventually created my own business that is essentially purpose driven. The description of that is I'm an influence coach and a communications consultant that I help business leaders, keynote speakers, entrepreneurs educate, inspire, and sell more by transforming their communication. It's all purpose in my new viewpoint. So I was sneaky and I said, "What's your purpose today? Today's speech." And you wrote back and said that today you are hoping to explain there's a better way of approaching evaluations, and that way is to understand the purpose and how to focus on the purpose in that speech in your evaluation. And you said to help them understand, practice, and know these things of a purpose-driven evaluation. So I wrote these three categories, and I may go over it, but I'm feeling spicy today. So did we understand what you were saying today? I thought there was a lovely amount of clarity and simple, just a statement of there's a better way, and that the opening was clear, and I sensed passion behind this. I actually know that you've been working very hard on this, so I saw that mirrored. And I also heard that also in that desire in phrases like "I want to," and then dot dot dot, press home your point. So I was starting to understand that this was important. And then I was hoping how to relate this to a speaker. And I thought Viv would be a good example. I think that Rosie mentioned the need for an example. And here was this speech that needed to focus on its purpose, which was about the help from others. And I agree that starting that up top can be a way to focus on the purpose of the speech more, to set a framework for that. And I also thought that later on, when you moved from something about not caring enough about the material to the logic of and that it's not enough for me to care, and then understanding the speech more, using the logic as the speaker. And I thought you summarized it very well. There was a lot of understanding what I thought you felt was important. The practice, how are we going to practice this in the future? If we've listened to this speech, there's a bunch of slides that you dropped into the chat, and I thought would have been helpful to have had a guinea pig today to model something, a table topics answer, and then give a purpose-driven evaluation commenting on the purpose nature of that. So a live action thing. And that kind of thing makes up the components of my purpose-driven module as a coach professionally, where I'm talking about storytelling, I'm talking about sales, I'm talking about things that are related to what's the outcome of the speech. And do we know this? This meaning in-body knowledge. So I thought, yeah, story is a great way to do that as an example, or just more simple, short examples in practice of what these things would sound like, the before and after, the one not purpose-driven comment, the purpose-driven comment. And to compliment you, as always, on the content, the data, the amount of information you have for us, and to say the ending could have been an emotional ending, and right at the end you said, here's 6 things that are important, and I thought, wow, that's more information, and I just need more impact at the end of this presentation. That's why in our previous communications to this meeting, I said, let's see if you can get people really excited. And that's where the ending needs to be for explaining this and taking it on a marketing tour like I did for my evaluation sheet. I'm excited. Let's keep working.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you so much, Michael. Let's see if David is here. David, if you're
here, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much, Pat. That was indeed fascinating. You are a quiet revolutionary. You may not know it, but that's how it felt to me. You were talking about dangerous stuff. You were talking about the essence of what most of us have learned to do by a lot of hard practice. And now you are daring to stand up and tell us, well, you didn't stand up. Maybe you could have done, because what you were telling us was that we had learnt the wrong way. And that's dangerous. So I think you need to be very careful about what you say. Because I don't know about the rest of you, but this was revolutionary, unless we're masters of evaluation and have perhaps started already to begin to think about this. But so I'm glad there are several guests here that will learn this change of approach from the beginning. Because when you when you sat down and just gently explained this, every single word, almost every single word, just very carefully was laying out how this different approach was not really revolutionary. It was just to enhance the old way and make it more practical and effective. So this, for me, with all the backup slides and with what I remember and the notes that I made, the notes I made are things like purpose, impact, feel, and you even helped me by numbering things, because being a pretty thick old chap, I tend to forget things. So there we are. Can I remember what the 3 examples were. What about the six? This was great stuff. So I would just say the only criticism I had was that you threw in an ED. I don't know. Perhaps it's because I'm not American enough. I didn't know what an ED was. And maybe, yes, you could have made it a bit more dramatic. Just, you'd have said, I'm going to let you into a secret. Now, this may seem revolutionary to you, and then perhaps we'd all have pricked up our ears, or some of us would have pricked up our ears and thought, oh, sure, the revolutionary God. So I think those were the only suggestions that I would make, would be to make it sound revolutionary, because I know you were wanting to be gentle and careful and thorough and careful and clear, but you were telling us revolutionary stuff. So just go a little secretive about it. So that's all I would say. Let's just turn it into reality. Well done, Pat.
Thank you, David.
Thank you so much, David, and to all of our three evaluators. Now let's spotlight them all and let's ask Pat, what kind of value did you get from the three evaluations?
Thank you, Mike. I got a lot of value actually because it's interesting because I had said to the evaluator, will you place your evaluations in the context of the approach that I outlined in the speech? So the more expression, Rosie it suggests that I have more expression. But I think, Rosie, you concentrated on the things I did rather than on the purpose that I was trying to achieve in your observations. So I would say, yes, definitely more expression, because more expression would have helped me to make more impact on my audience. Yeah, and I think that would have added to the point I made. Michael and I have had a lot of conversation on this, and I even bought his books during the week so that I understood where he was coming from. And I liked the fact that Michael understood exactly what the point I was trying to make, and stated that, asked me that point before I started speaking, what's the purpose? But the value is that he had, we had a lot of conversation on it. I like the idea that I need probably to be a bit more relatable, and and probably to have a slightly better structure around this. Somebody put that in the chat. But I'll say to Mike, we should have a conversation about this, because there's a lot of more behind this. But one of the things, that was a 15-minute introduction, which really doesn't give an opportunity to go through those examples, to do the exercises, to engage the audience. But that is absolutely something that I would like to do. I'm doing a workshop on it in another club, which is 45 minutes, and I'll have some chance to do that. I didn't use the slides because I thought, I hate slides. I've used them 3 times in 150 speeches, and they failed once, and that was the best time I used them. Because you shouldn't need slides to be able to make your points well. And slides distract from the points. But they're good to have afterwards. So that's why I don't use slides. And David, you're absolutely right. As I wrote this, I felt, God, this is revolutionary in some ways, but it's not actually. It's only evolutionary, because the very first point I made in the speech was there are two things Toastmasters ask you to look at, which is the competencies and the purpose. We talk only about the competencies in our evaluations. We rarely get to the purpose. So what I'm doing is that I'm now bringing that purpose to the fore, and saying to speakers, if they think about what is your purpose before you step up and make a speech. Do you want to entertain? Do you want to inform? Do you want to, what do you want to do? What do you want people to know, think, feel, or do after you've spoken? And when you're clear about that, then you want them to tell you, how well did I achieve that purpose? And what did I do to help me to achieve it? And what did I do that detracted from it? And that will help me to be a better speaker the next time. Thank you, guys. Great evaluations. Really appreciate it. And thank you to everybody for all your comments. Super meeting. I got a lot of value from it.